Hey everyone, welcome to the 294th episode of Primo Radical. This is a little bit of a unique show that I'm doing today, or a little different than what you may be accustomed to. As many longtime listeners of the show know, this is typically an interview show, but this week I'm not interviewing anyone. I'm just kind of checking in. And my life has been a little hectic. I don't know about you folks if you've been busy this summer, but this has been a very busy summer for me. I've been working full time again. As many of you may know, I am a parent, so I have some kids I'm taking care of, and always got the doctor's appointments and dentist appointments and stuff like that. So it's been, and then also just trying to do fun things when possible. Going to see Superman. I saw Superman with my daughter, so that was not as bad as a lot of reviews. Well, here's the thing about the reviews on Superman. It was really kind of either people loved it or hated it. It was, this is the best movie ever, or this is complete woke trash. It really wasn't either of those. It was a good movie that was flawed, basically. And I know many of you have probably seen it, and you may have your own opinions, but my thoughts were the Superman parts of it were typically pretty good. I liked the really comic booky, Silver Age kind of takes on the monsters and robots and stuff. What I thought sucked was like the Justice Gang that they had and how much focus there was there, and also Crypto. They featured Crypto. Like, Crypto came to save the day over and over and over again. So I didn't like that. But overall, I thought it was a good movie. It just kind of was flawed. But, doing stuff like that, just trying to make the most of the summer while also working full time, it's been pretty crazy, which is why I haven't been recording many episodes lately. And, for longtime listeners of the show, that this has kind of been, this is familiar territory for you over the last several years. Is we have sort of these spurts of interviews, and then it goes quiet for several months, if not a year. So this has been kind of the challenge that I've had in trying to keep Primo Radical going, keep this show going, is just, the time that it takes, especially for doing interviews. And, that's been the challenge lately, is just trying to get guests on the show. And I've had some big guests from prior episodes. I've reached out to them and they've agreed to be on, but trying to schedule something is damn near impossible. So not sure if we're going to have any interviews between now and episode 300. But, again, it's a challenge. And I'm sure many people out there can relate. People that have full-time jobs, people that have families. It's just, it seems like there's no free time anymore. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's just being an adult. I don't know if it's just the modern world we live in with, phones, I guess, eating up any free seconds that we have. I've been trying, not to scroll as much and not, I play a lot of chess online, or I have played a lot of chess online. Stopped doing that as much. Just trying to find the free time where I can. But I think part of it's the economy too, right? Like, back during the COVID days, it was a little easier because, everybody was locked at home and had more free time. And now it's just, I don't know. I think the interest rates being high, and the economy, and the tariffs, and the economy being tight. And I know the stock market's up, but I think a lot of people are just like scrambling for cash. Again, especially because of the interest rates. So, having to go back to work, having to spend other free time selling stuff and side hustles and all that. So, being able to do a podcast, especially an interview podcast, where you're having to try to arrange your schedule with some somewhat well-known people, it's kind of difficult. So that's been the challenge on my end. Again, I'm sure some people can relate as far as like the time side of that. But again, just wanted to kind of check in, share my thoughts on how the summer's been going overall. If you listen to my last conversation, my last episode was just a discussion with my friend Crispy. And I spent a lot of time talking about how I'm kind of over politics, kind of burnt out on it. I actually recorded that like the day before Iran and Israel started bombing each other. So it was a little ironic there when we recorded that. But, that happened this summer. And then obviously the Epstein thing has just been going on and on and on. And the first couple weeks of that was Trump shifting his narrative repeatedly. So, first they said there was no client list, and then he got asked about it and was all indignant and said, like, why are you asking about that? That's a disgrace. And then, he started going after his supporters and calling them weaklings, his former supporters who still cared about Epstein. And then he shifted to calling it a Democrat hoax, although that didn't even make sense because on the one hand, he was saying, I'm not on the list because if I was, or I'm not in the files because if I was, then Democrats would have used that against me. But also saying at the same time, well, Democrats may have put me in the files and it's a big hoax. So his whole narrative there made zero sense whatsoever. And lately it seems like, because he kept getting asked about it, it seems as though now he's, I guess, leaning into it more. And then also you have these subpoenas for Bill and Hillary Clinton coming from the Republicans. So it seemed as though they were really trying to find their footing over the last several weeks, and they may have done it now where, again, shifting focus and blame over to Hillary and Bill Clinton and maybe Democrats. But it's really been a weird summer as far as that's concerned, this whole Epstein narrative and just trying to find a coherent response, because it has not been at all. And it's funny too, because you see all these MAGA apologists on, or, like these MAGA influencers, people like Charlie Kirk or Cat Turd, those kind of people like, Ben Shapiro. And with those folks, it's been funny too, seeing the shift in narrative, because like Charlie Kirk said, I'm done talking about this. And then when the administration changed its narrative, he changed his also. And they start condemning the panicans for not trusting the plan. But it was really the panicans who really pushed the issue, right? Because initially the whole thing was, the response from Trump was to just get over it and forget about it. But it was those panicking MAGA Republicans, the people in Trump's own base who didn't go along with it. They're the ones who pushed it forward, where now there had to be some kind of response from the administration. So that whole dynamic was interesting to watch, and it's still ongoing, and every day it seems as though, there's a new shift or new piece of the narrative, or Trump gets asked a new question at a press conference about it. So that'll probably be ongoing for a while. Again, we're only in what is this, the first 8 months of Trump's administration, of his second term. So, potentially this could go on for the next 3 years, where we're just hearing more and more about this. And I don't know, is Trump in the files? Was his name redacted? Like all this stuff. So it'll be an ongoing story. And again, I'd love to have somebody on to talk about it. But again, just personally finding the time to do that is going to be a challenge on my end. So that's the unfortunate side of it. But I also wanted to talk about the two big deaths that we had within 2 days of each other. Actually, it wasn't just over the course of the summer. It was within 2 days. We lost Ozzy Osbourne and Hulk Hogan. And I know this is a couple weeks ago now, but these were pretty big deals, both of them. Ozzy Osbourne, of course, wrote some of the most iconic rock music of the 70s, 80s, some of his songs in the 90s even too. And he was a celebrity in his own right. And I was lucky enough to actually see him in concert back in 2016, 2017, I forget. Black Sabbath went on tour, so I got to see him in person. And then, but 24 hours after he died of a heart attack, Hulk Hogan, probably the most famous professional wrestler ever in the history of pro wrestling, also an actor and, again, a celebrity in his own right, Hulk Hogan passed away also of a heart attack. And he had been doing a lot of surgeries. I actually went back and listened to Hogan's interview on Joe Rogan, and he was talking about how he had 25 surgeries in the last couple years. That may not be completely accurate. Hogan liked to embellish pretty much everything, so it may not have been quite that many. But in any case, Hogan had just come out of a back surgery, and I guess he wasn't looking good after that. Reports where he wasn't speaking, and just it was not good. And then he passed away of a heart attack. So, so two legends died of heart attacks. Again, one of the most famous rock and roll musicians, famous singers ever, Ozzy Osbourne, and then the most famous professional wrestler ever died within 48 hours. So it was a strange coincidence. And I also, on top of seeing Ozzy Osbourne perform, I also have gotten to see Hogan a few times. I never met him in person. I have been able to meet a few professional wrestlers. I've met Roddy Piper and Ric Flair and Jerry the King Lawler and Sergeant Slaughter. I've met a lot of professional wrestlers, actually. Actually, a couple were on the show. Jake the Snake Roberts and Glenn Jacobs. They were both guests on the show previously. But I never got to meet Hulk Hogan, but I did see him wrestle on, I believe it was a SmackDown, where he tag teamed with Edge back in 2003, I believe, 2002, 2003. And I also recently saw him, actually last year, when I went to Trump's event in Madison Square Garden. So I actually got to see Hulk Hogan in Madison Square Garden, which for wrestling fans is kind of meaningful because that's where Hulkamania really started, when Hulk Hogan defeated the Iron Sheik in 1984 for the WWF title. That was at Madison Square Garden. So got to see Hogan within the past year, less than a year ago, and also got to see Ozzy perform. So glad I got to see them before they passed away. But again, I was just really taken aback. First, the death of Ozzy. And, it was kind of interesting on the one hand because, he's an older guy and he wasn't in good health for years and years. But, when he passed, it reminded me a bit of when Michael Jackson died, when there was, they're playing Michael Jackson music on the radio for, it seemed like weeks. But the days after Ozzy died, they were playing Black Sabbath and Ozzy songs. And I was actually walking around outside. I think I was taking my garbage out or something, actually. But I was outside, and I just heard, over the horizon, War Pigs playing. And I just was thinking to myself, man, tonight, there's probably more people listening. That was the night Ozzy died. There's probably more people listening to good music, to classic rock, than have been in decades. So, I think a lot of people really hit home with them. People who are big Ozzy fans, big Black Sabbath fans. Again, just some of the music that he wrote or that he sang on. Those are just some of the best songs ever. War Pigs, Paranoid, Iron Man, Fairies Wear Boots, After Forever. I even, I like some of Black Sabbath's really slow songs too. What's that one? I Sail Through Endless Skies. I forget what that is. But that's a really good song. And obviously all of Ozzy's solo stuff was pretty good too, especially from the 80s. Diary of a Madman, Bark at the Moon, Crazy Train, Shot in the Dark. There's so many good songs. And, it's sad that he passed away. But on the other hand, too, he recently just did a final show with Black Sabbath where he wasn't even able to stand, where he had to perform sitting in a weird throne that they had set up and wasn't able to stand up. So it was cool that he got to go out with a bang. He did that last show, and even if he couldn't stand up, he got to finally do it. And that was kind of cool. But I guess it was kind of just time, he'd gotten to that age, and we all got to go some point, right? But then Hulk Hogan dying 2 days later, that was just a big shocker for me too, because again, I'm a huge pro wrestling fan. I have been, basically my whole life. I was watching Hulk Hogan when I was a little kid, wrestle the Ultimate Warrior and Andre the Giant and all those guys, Macho Man. Like that was like some of my earliest memories are watching wrestling from that time period. And then I was a big WCW fan when I was a teenager, so all the Hollywood Hogan stuff, and even he came back in the red and yellow at the very end of WCW, and then he also had another run in WWE, where again I got to see him tag team with Edge. And obviously he had that WrestleMania with The Rock and some other matches. He wrestled Shawn Michaels and some other guys around that time period. So I've always, again, it's hard not to, if you are of my age, I guess, it's hard not to, on some level, be a Hulk Hogan fan. Even if you can acknowledge, his personal failings or the fact that he really wasn't that great of an in-ring technician. Or, there's a lot of criticism from him in the wrestling world because he did a lot of backstage politics that even kind of overlapped. I had another former guest of mine, Jesse Ventura, he talked about on this show when he tried to unionize the wrestlers, and Hulk Hogan was really the one who alerted Vince McMahon about that. So, there was a lot of failings of Hulk Hogan, but again, he was the most famous professional wrestler in history. And he's, 6-time world champion. He, in a lot of ways, he was bigger than professional wrestling, right? Because he transcended professional wrestling. I know he wasn't in like the best films ever made, but he did also, do a lot of films, TV. He was a regular on late night talk shows. So, he was a household name. Everybody knew who Hulk Hogan was, which is why, again, when he endorsed Donald Trump last year, that was kind of actually meaningful in some ways, more than if it was, I don't know, Triple H or just some other wrestler. Hulk Hogan, that's the wrestler that pretty much everyone knows. Like if you just ask somebody who knew nothing at all about professional wrestling, name me a pro wrestler, they'd probably say Hulk Hogan. Or, maybe The Rock. But yeah, it was shocking to lose him. Again, he just wasn't that old, and he seemed in good health. Obviously, again, he's had a lot of back surgeries and knee surgeries and hip replacements and all this stuff, but beyond that, he just didn't, like a year ago, he didn't look that bad. He didn't look like he was living the last year of his life. If you had said who's going to die first, Hulk Hogan or Ric Flair, I would have said Ric Flair, but no, Hulk Hogan apparently, just all he had been through and all those surgeries, and I guess he had other health problems too. He apparently had leukemia, they announced after he died. So he did have health issues, but it's just odd, it's weird having him finally be gone again, because he was such a big thing to so many wrestling fans. He was synonymous with wrestling for so long that, and other wrestlers from that time period have passed on, right? Like Roddy Piper passed on, Macho Man Randy Savage, Andre the Giant a long time ago. A lot of these people had passed on, but something about Hulk Hogan's death, I think, really signals the end of an era. Like that's just, I think now too, if you go back and look at the main events of the first dozen WrestleManias, there's at least one person dead from each of the first dozen WrestleManias. So again, it just kind of signals from the main event. So I think it just kind of signals again that we've I don't know, we're all getting older, I guess is the takeaway. We're all just getting older, and that period. And I even saw memes too of people, talking about how Ozzy died, Hulk Hogan died, the son from the Cosby Show also died right around that time, and some people are making memes saying this was the week the 80s died. So, yeah, I just think we're getting to that age now where people from that time period, people who were iconic when I was a kid are just starting to pass away now. They're getting up there. And some other weird kind of coincidences I thought between, because Ozzy died and then 48 hours later, Hogan died. There was some weird parallels between the two, if you think about it. First of all, on just a basic level, because Hulk Hogan got his name, obviously, from the Incredible Hulk, a Marvel Comics character. Then Ozzy sang Iron Man, which is also a Marvel Comics character. Hulk and Iron Man are both members of the Avengers. So I thought that was a weird kind of synchronicity between those two dying of heart attacks within 48 hours. But also, if you think about it, what also is really weird is that those two had these groundbreaking celebrity reality TV shows at almost the same time, or one after the other. So Ozzy Osbourne was the star of The Osbournes, which was a reality TV show on MTV about his family. And again, this was after he was basically done being a rock star. It was towards the end of his career. And then almost within months of that going off the air, within months of the Osbournes going off the air, Hulk Hogan did a similar show, Hogan Knows Best, on VH1 about his family, also when he was basically retired from wrestling or very close to the end of his career. So it's just a weird synchronicity where you had these two guys who did these groundbreaking reality TV shows about their families, and they both happened to die within 48 hours of heart attacks. So, again, I just found that odd. But again, they're both going to be missed, obviously, and they've had their funerals now, and there's been tributes and whatnot, and I think their memories are going to live on forever. And Ozzy Osbourne and Hulk Hogan have really big legacies. They impacted rock and roll music and professional wrestling, unlike any two people in those fields ever did. Also, another synchronicity, both of them were at WrestleMania 2, by the way. I don't know if you knew that. And so Ozzy had some involvement in pro wrestling, and Hulk Hogan also, he actually started out in a band. He was a musician. So, again, there was a lot of synchronicity between the two, but both are going to be missed. And just personally speaking, like, they both had a big impact on me. Ozzy Osbourne's music, Hulk Hogan's pro wrestling career. Those are just memories that I'm going to carry with me forever. So definitely going to miss the two. So sad we lost both of them this summer. And overall, that's kind of where my headspace has been at this summer. Just between those losses, how busy I've been, trying to follow this Epstein saga too. But unfortunately, not having the time to have a guest on the show to talk about it. Hopefully that changes. Hopefully I can either do a late night interview or something on the weekends. Again, even the weekends are hard for me because I have to do stuff with the family. So we'll see how all that goes. Just stay tuned, folks. Again, no matter what, whether it's little updates like this, we are marching towards the 300th episode. And that's going to be a fun one for me, at least to record. And if you're a long-time listener, if you've been listening since the early days of Primo Nutmeg, then you're going to enjoy the 300th episode, because I'm going to have some of my friends on who were on the first episodes. And it's always a good time to get together with the friends and talk about a variety of different things, have a few beers, toss them back, and talk about, not just politics, but wrestling, movies, sports, pop culture. That's how this show really started originally. It was not just focusing on politics, but talking about a wide variety of cultural things. So I'm looking forward to that. Hopefully you are too. Again, stay tuned. I'm not sure what the next 4 episodes are going to feature, but hopefully they're good ones too. But thanks for listening today, folks. Good touching base with you. As always, please like, comment, subscribe, share, follow me across social media. And until next time, stay primo.